Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing a spicy Aluren build that Otaba played in a league, and I just had to jump on the chance to play this one. So for those who are unfamiliar with what Aluren is, let me demonstrate. So this is a 4 mana enchantment. Any player may cast creature spells with mana value 3 or less without paying their mana cost and as though they had flash. So what we want to do with this is have Aluren in play, cast Living Wish, get Acererak the Archlich, and then this comes into play. We go into a different dungeon, the one that like pings for 1, and we just replay this because it bounces itself constantly, and that's just a self-contained infinite loop there where we drain our opponent out. So that's the main way we're trying to win here. But we do just have a bunch of good cards in our deck. So we've got a lot of cantrips, Ponder's Brainstorms. Generous Ent is an interesting one here. I suppose a 5/7 reach isn't exactly the worst stats right now either, to be honest. Then we have some Lorien Revealed. So we've got a bunch of cantrips that can also do other stuff in the case of the cyclers. We've got a bunch of decent creatures, one of them cantrips in the Baleful Strix. We've got some Tamiyo, which can just draw us a bunch of cards, so you kind of see this sort of blue-black mid-range shell that's been doing quite well lately. We've got some Uro. Now this is what I call a win condition, so we can play this one out. We also have a Talon Gates of Madara in there, so if we put this in and then put the Talon Gates in off the trigger, we can then phase this out, and then we'll have a guy to attack the next turn. We have 3 Harbinger of the Seas, which is an awful lot. But if we're playing on a bunch of basics here, we can just jam this down and completely shut down a bunch of decks. It's quite a nice thing to have in the main deck. And worst case scenario, we brainstorm it away or pitch it to Force of Will. We've got 3 Birds of Paradise to help speed things up a little bit. We are trying to cast a 4 mana enchantment at the end of the day. And we have 1 Carpet of Flowers, which tells you a little bit about how the meta is right now. This card is great when it's useful, and obviously when it's not useful it doesn't do anything, but having a card that can just add a whole bunch of mana and get us to playing this Aluren is really important. We've got a couple of Abrupt Decay to interact with our opponent, namely killing Psychic Frog. We have a Flare of Denial, which is a new card that I haven't really seen in any play yet. So we can sacrifice a non-token blue creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost to counter target spell. So Tamiyo, Uro, Harbinger, Baleful Strix, you get the idea. And then we've got 4 obligatory Force of Wills. Mana base, like I mentioned, we've got 1 swamp, a couple of islands, a couple of forests, and a bunch of fetches. We've got 1 surveil land in there, and the rest is jewels, and there's Talon Gates and fetches. Sideboard-wise, we don't just have the Acererak. We can also go and Living Wish for a Fairy Macabre or an Endurance. Sometimes we'll be boarding one of these in and leaving one in the sideboard. But that's it for the Living Wish. We're not going super deep into it. We've got another Carpet of Flowers when it's good. We want to have more. We've got Fatal Push as a bit of removal. Another Talon Gates. And a Boseiju just as a bit of extra mana, which we will sometimes need, as well as some interaction that's more or less free to deal with some opponents who are going to have some scary opponents we need to blow up. A couple of Solgar Lanterns for a bit more graveyard hate. And a Toxic Deluge as a nice sweeper. And of course, a Consign to Memory, which is becoming a pretty important card in the meta with all the Eldrazi running around. So yeah, this is the deck. Otaba's like a bit of an Aluren master over there. So hopefully we can do them proud. Alright. Remember to like and subscribe, and let's get Alurening. Aluren. Let's play it. Okay, let's go. Our opening hand does not have mana, so this is going to go back. Our opening hand does not have mana. This is going to go back. Our opening hand has 1 land, which comes into play tapped. I think we just have to buy the ticket and take the ride here. So we're probably getting rid of the birds, and yeah, we'll get rid of the birds and the Abrupt Decay. I think it doesn't take much for this hand to get better, but we need to have a nice surveil here, or a nice draw step. Nice draw step? Not a nice draw step. Okay. So we'll surveil here. Please be a land on top. Not a land. We can put this into our graveyard. And we need to get through a turn cycle with our ponder intact. If you multi-5 and your opponent's playing blueback scam, you basically pretty much lose on the spot, because they're going to take a bunch of cards out of your hand, and you're not really going to be playing the game on a fair footing. So we kind of need things to come together here, and I'd rather take the risk of possibly getting wastelanded here. A Grizzlebrand in our opponent's graveyard. Okay. We might be reaching for this Force of Will sooner than anticipated. They're definitely going to try and reanimate it this turn. Let's try and say no to this. Our opponent's going to daze it, and then the game is over. And it doesn't matter that our hand had a flaw in it, because our opponent's just going to exploit it by having a better hand. Yep. Alright, so they get a Grizzlebrand here. I don't think we need to watch our opponent beat us down with this Grizzlebrand here. We don't need to show our opponent anything else. Alright, I would like some graveyard hate, please. We'll board in one of these. I would like this carpet. We need an answer for Psychic Frog. Probably some more Graveyard Hate isn't the worst. So that's looking like a big block of 7 cards we might want here. I don't think we want the Harbinger of the Seas. How do I feel about Flare of Denial? The Baleful Strix is pretty reasonable at dealing with frogs, but pretty terrible at dealing with Bowmasters. So it's just one of those things we're going to have to live with. So if we're sacrificing a creature, we've probably already got some value. So maybe the Flare of Denial is better than Force of Will in this matchup, because it's not going to be taking extra cards out of our hand. I'm a little bit sketchy about having Generous Ents when our opponent can reanimate them. I think that's just how it is. It's just such an annoying matchup, because you kind of want the Force of Will to hit what they're getting. But at the same point, the scam side of their deck makes the Force of Wills terrible. So it just kind of leaves you in this horrible spot. We'll probably board out a bird if we're boarding in a carpet. Okay, we'll try something along these lines. It's going to be hard to assemble a combo that's built around a 4-mana enchantment when our opponent is playing Blue Lightning Scaminator. And I am certainly not an accomplished Alluren player like the person whose deck this actually is. So what I'm doing here is I'm choosing to try and fight the reanimate side of their deck with our Graveyard Hate, so that we don't get blown out by the scam side of the deck. So this hand is turn 1 Tamiyo, pretty good start. We might struggle to cast this Baleful Strix on 2 given the mana we have, which is a little awkward. Given the nature of the matchup, I think we are obliged to keep here. We have a playable hand. Might be a little bit slow on the Baleful Strix getting into play. I am reluctant to cycle this Generous Ent and give our opponent a 5/7, but it's kind of part of our mana base, so I don't think we can afford to board it out either. Can play on basics here. For now, we will have to fetch something our opponent can wasteland if we want to cast the Baleful Strix though, because both of our cyclers do not get a basic swamp. Fell Push is pretty good. We can play the Baleful Strix around a daze. A Living Wish. I don't think we're doing Living Wish things, are we? I think we are in playing out Forest and sandbagging a couple of cyclers so we can get our Baleful Strix up and running next turn around a daze. But if they leave their mana open and threaten the Bowmasters, it becomes very awkward to try and attempt that. Brainstorm. So our opponent is not going to be putting an Orcish Bowmaster into play this turn. Okay, we've got Fetch being cracked to shuffle away the Brainstorm. We've got follow-up play. They're going to reanimate our Tamiyo. That's not ideal for us. Again, I don't think we can cycle this Generous Ent, and it's a thing that we cycle if we have to. Right, let's cycle this. Do we cycle it now just because? So we want a black source, so it has to be the Underground Sea here. I do like the Euro, but let's just get this down when there's no Bowmasters to really wreak havoc upon it. This makes the Tamiyo attacks pretty bad, but our opponent can Brainstorm and get that going. Our mana base means we can't cast this Tamiyo if we wanted to. Alright, so if they flip this Tamiyo, it goes into the battlefield under its owner's control. So they can get 1 clue off of this, unless they can clear the Baleful Strix. A Ponder. Okay, maybe our opponent doesn't know that we get the Tamiyo. That is what it says. Under its owner's control. So, maybe they'll cast another cantrip. A Swamp Cycle. They've kind of switched off Brainstorm a little bit, because that just gives us a flip Tamiyo if they have a Brainstorm here. A Reanimate on the Troll. Yeah, that's a big creature, isn't it? Right, so they're going to get a clue out of this. We'll use our Death Touch. Okay, so probably looking at doing things towards an Uro plan. So this can get us a black. So we want to have a blue left over for the Tamiyo, but we also want to have the option of drawing the gates. And do you have anything? We don't have anything in the sideboard that's going to help us here, do we? Like, the time for that endurance is gone already. So I think we're going to do it like this, just in case we draw the Talon gates, and then we have a chance to phase this, and then we've got a nice threat. I suppose they can daze it, but dazing an Uro isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world for us. Do we draw the Talon gates? We did not. I will put in the Snow-Covered Forest. I don't think we're in the desperation of trying to go and get a Acererak right now. I think we crack this. We want the Tamiyo. I would like to have access to casting Uro, which is blue, blue, green, green. So if we get a blue source, that means we're covered from a wasteland. But I would also like to have a black source. But the only black source I can find here would be an Undercity Sewers, which is not going to allow us to cast the Tamiyo right now. So we probably have to then get either a basic or this Trop, just so it helps us cast the Uro if they wasteland us. Alright, in comes Tamiyo around a daze. We're not blocking because this has Super Menace. So we may as well get that 1 point of damage in. It's going to take 4 turns for them to kill us with this troll if we can't get our Uro back. If we get our Uro back, then obviously things are different. So we have to cycle the Generous Ent in the end step so that we have enough cards to get our Uro back. Engineer explosives, X equals 1. Okay, you're going to just blow up our Tamiyo. That's not too bad for us. We lost a thing. 3 mana answer. It's like Dark Banishing, basically. Okay, let's cycle this. And because we have all these lands here, we might as well just get the Hedge Maze and get the extra little bit of fixing. Although I think, actually no, we probably want the extra black source just in case, actually. Now I think about it. Baleful Strix. Okay, so we're going to cast this Uro. Green, green, blue, blue. And we're going to exile Generous Ent so they can't reanimate it. Same with the 2 Tamiyos. Can I have an Uro, please? The stuff that's in exile is now wishable as well. I don't believe that's what we want to do, but it's an option. Alright, we've got Force of Will. So now, make the Baleful Strix. Have they got a Daze? They do have a Daze. I think we need to be mana efficient in case we draw into the Alluren and can just win the game. So we can get the Talon Gate and phase this out, but it doesn't actually change how things are going for us. We can get the Boseiju off of the Living Wish as well. But again, that's not really going to save us from where we are here. There is a risk along getting the Acererak right now, because it means that our opponent can take it out of our hand, and then it's a lot more difficult to try and put it into play if we have to then get it out of our graveyard first. We could just go and get an Endurance and have like a reasonable value creature and save the Living Wish for if we can find the Alluren, but it's going to be a case of what we see next turn. One of the downsides of Living Wish is it exiles itself, so we don't get to put more cards in the yard for the old Uro. So it might be a bit of a struggle to get that one going. Alright, so we're going to hit for 6. It's going to put us to 9. So we can take 1 more hit and then the next one will kill us. What is on our exile zone here? Generous Ent, Tamiyo. Okay, so I think Brainstorm is the way to go here. We have no fear of Bowmasters. Another Uro isn't the worst. So we have 1, 2, this will be 3, 4. So we're not going to have enough to put the Uro in. 2 of these cards go back. We put back the 2 wishes. Back a wish. Yeah. And then draw one of them in a sec. Try and get through this Brainstorm a little bit. Green, green, blue. So we want to play our bonus land off of this Uro, so that when we do the Brainstorm that we can do in a sec, we can get a little bit more chance of playing a land out. All the Living Wishes. I guess we're putting away 2 Living Wishes. Then we just cast a Living Wish. See what our opponent wants to do about it. Alright, we got a Force of Will out of it. Not a bad suggestion. Whenever somebody plays something that's a bit wild and could do anything, you should probably say no to that if you can. This means that our Uro is quite likely to resolve next turn, which is going to buy us a little bit more wiggle room. This is going to put us to 6, then we're going to go up to 9. So we're kind of treading water against this troll. Going to draw another Living Wish. So now we've gotten through all those cards, we can ponder afresh and have more looks. Alluren, Birds of Paradise. So I don't really want this Uro. I don't want the Alluren to be discarded. Birds on top. We don't want to get the Acererak in case they discard it with a hardcast Grief if they have a land. Good triple block here. I'm going to hold this back in case I have a Borrower, because that's how we get busted up here. They would just play a Borrower and attack with like a removal spell on our birds. Now they need 2 removal spells. Yep, so they have the Petty Theft. Okay. So now they put us to 3. And then we try and Alluren for our dear life. Cycling a Troll. Okay. That means Force of Will is off the cards. Like just to Surveil. Ooh, we might be able to get this one, you know. Opponent seems to be much more in the regular scam style of things. An Animate Dead on a Troll is our last card. Alright, so we have the game, I believe. We got to click through it, although our opponent might scoop once we assemble the combo. Alright. Let's go and get Acererak the Archlich here. Green, green, blue, blue. Get the Alluren. Cast out opponent's mana cost. And now we get to go into the dungeon that kills our opponent. So we don't go into the Tomb of Reanimation. This is the one that is that pings them for 1, I think, right? I think it's the Dark Pool that pings for 1. I'm pretty sure about that. There it is, yeah. And then we just have to do this a bunch. So I need to yield to some stuff. Let's go to Dark Pool. In paper, this is obviously a lot easier to execute. Right, I'm just going to click through this and cut to the bit where our opponent dies. I'm going to go attack and see if our opponent misses the fact that they can play their Borrower. This is just easier to get the 1 damage through than click through the whole dungeon again. Alright. Managed to even that up. I think I like how I've sideboarded here. We've just got some nice card advantage stuff to pull us back into the game. We've got a little bit of graveyard hate to get rid of their sort of unfair plan. I think that's pretty reasonable. Alright, our opener does not have lands in it again. This is a recurring problem we found already. It might just be variants making it happen all in one go, but that's something. Alright, we have graveyard hate. And then we have lands we're not going to get wastelanded off of. This seems fine. We have an answer to Frog as well, which is the best fair plan that they can muster. This is okay. We need to get rid of one of these cards. I would like to keep all my lands. We probably don't need the Lorien Revealed for now. It's not something that can impact the board, whereas the Living Wish can give us a creature that can at least, you know, hold the battlefield or contest what our opponent's doing. We do have to try and play this Sultai Lantern this turn, I would say, though. I think we play out the Snow-Covered Island. This means that if we draw a Baleful Strix, we can go and get the Black Source and cast it. It also means that our opponent might think about Daze. We have to play the Lantern, though. Because if our opponent is holding up black mana and they just go in Tomb and then reanimate on their turn, we would lose the game. It's probably just going to be a Troll Cycle. Yeah, but they might have been planning on reanimating this, so we can at least say no to that and continue on with this game instead of just getting absolutely Shadow Realmed. Right, no play for our opponent, possibly meaning they were trying to play Animate Dead or something. I don't think we're going to play the Living Wish out into removal. Into Daze. So we're just going to hold up. We've drawn 2 lands so far. Orcish Bowmasters. Not a surprise. At this present moment in time, I don't care that much about Orcish Bowmasters. That obviously changes with a bunch of cards on our deck. I'd rather save this Fatal Push for something like a Frog. This feels like a tester. We can afford to take a little bit of damage off these guys. A Ponder. Sure. We can phase out the Bowmasters for turn if we need to try and jam some cantrips. We could get our Surveil land, but then we would lose our only black source to having a Hedge Maze in play. So we're just going to leave this in play. Alright, so we have a Brainstorm. They could Orcish Bowmasters here. I think the play here is phase out the Bowmasters. Then we can get our Brainstorm off, put back some of these lands that we're carrying around. They could have another Bowmasters here. We can... Alright, this is too many lands. We definitely want 1 fetch, but do we need 2? Because every point of life matters when they're dealing us damage in increments of 1 here. So I believe we're going to... This will get us... We've already played our land for turn. This can get us a Bayou to cast the Birds of Paradise. So we're going to want the black land here. So I think we put back an island for now. Now this is going to Bayou actually. We put back the Snow-Covered Forest. Then we put back one of the fetches. So we want this one that can get a black source in case we get wasted off of it. We're going to draw it anyway, but it's the one that goes underneath it. Actually, no, we're not going to draw it. We're going to crack and play this, aren't we? Yeah, that's fine. I think it is the Bayou here. Let's cast just a friendly, innocent Birds of Paradise. When the phasing creature comes back in, it doesn't get its abilities. It's just there. Phasing is not like a flicker for those who are uninitiated in the ways of old mechanics. Alright, they're spending a Fatal Push on our Birds of Paradise. Like, it's annoying they're interacting, but that's not really a premier target. Alright, Brainstorm from our opponent. So they're probably going to get rid of some amount of reanimation type spells because we're blanking them with this Sultai Lantern. So there comes a point where cracking Sultai Lantern might be a thing we want to do. Obviously there's a Bowmaster in place, that's a concern. But we can take a little bit more damage from these. If we can find an Uro, then we can just gain a bunch of life, even though we can grow their thing. We can just take out the Orc and just make the massive creature. Having the Talons in play is annoying because we can't get the sweet Uro player just playing it and having it be ready to go. Alright, we got Surveil land from our opponent. Alright, they're brainstorming in response to get rid of one of the bad cards in their hand. Yeah. So they put it on top and then that gets surveilled away. The Markov mana, Karlov mana, whatever the murders at the mana set is called, may not have impacted with many cards, but these surveil lands have really done quite a lot of work in the format, and I think they're a wonderful addition. I think it's just like them and Cryptic Coat, maybe, the only cards from that set. I might be wrong. There might be another one I'm forgetting. I wouldn't be surprised to see. They left a card on top. Wow. Okay, they didn't have any bad cards. Another land that we're not interested in. What does our sideboard look like right now in terms of creatures? It's not looking great. We could go and get an Endurance, and that does check what our opponent's doing, but we can't play it immediately. I think we'll go and play the Misty Rainforest and get a Surveil land ready to go. I don't think I want to burn a Living Wish. We've got Fail Push with Revolt if we need it. We can always use the Sultai Lantern to get Revolt. A little bit awkward with a Bowmaster in play, but it's a thing we're allowed to do. Okay, we're going to take another little bit of damage. There is a Ponder. We might have to think about answering this Bowmaster soon. There's a Psychic Frog. That's what we've been holding our removal for a while. This is worth a Force of Will, but our opponent might consider that we could try and win the game with a combo, so they probably can't afford to save this. Oh, they've decided that they probably can. But at least that's less cards in their hand to pitch to the Psychic Frog. Let's get our Hedge Maze and get a little bit more selection. Ponder is pondering into this Bowmasters does not feel good. Oh, I think I'm going to have to throw that one away. I wouldn't fault someone for taking it, but our life total is not an infinite resource. Okay, so what are we doing here? We need to cast an Endurance, which means we need 3 sources of green mana. So this has to get us a piece of green mana if we want to cast an Endurance right now, which I think is what we want to do. So the only green sources can get us is Tropical Island. I do think it is Endurance just to try and stabilize this board a bit. We probably want to play it now. It has 1 card in hand. It's going to be a Daze. I don't think we have the time to play around and given our life total now. Yeah, we took some hits from the Bowmaster, but we at least had a shot at taking out the Frog. Putting these cards back in our opponent's deck is obviously not ideal, but it stops a Murktide Regent coming into play. And it stops the Frog having some extra abilities. Alright, they're just cutting our guy immediately. Still stops the top deck Murktide, but Murktide isn't really necessary. And a lot of these decks have gone off of the Murktide since there is Psychic Frog, but it's not entirely uncommon to see like 1 or 2 of them in the sideboard as just another threat when they're playing the fairer game rather than going down the graveyard route. Right, so now our opponent is drawing an additional card every turn, and we are just flooding out. If we draw an Uro, yes, it's going to give our opponent a bigger Bowmaster. Okay, Fairy Macabre isn't great here. I'm not going to lie, it's not where I want to be. Okay, Fairy Macabre. You are on blocking duty. I would like to block the Bowmasters and cycle the Lantern. Ponder from our opponent. I imagine they're just not going to attack with the Bowmasters here. If they find another one, then they might just push damage as much as they can, and then they can ping it even if we block the Bowmasters. Or they could just attack with the army and the Frog. A Brainstorm on top of that Ponder. They shuffled off that Ponder as well. A Dark Betrayal, you say? Alright. How do we get out of this one? We're dead on our opponent's next turn regardless, I would imagine. Right, they're putting a counter on, so we're definitely dead on our opponent's next turn. So all we can do is cycle our Sultai Lantern, take a ping, and hope that we find both Living Wish and Alluren in the top 2 cards. It's a line. I don't like it very much, but it's where we are. Alright, that was not one of the 2 cards I just asked for. What happens if we find an Uro here? Probably not enough. Well, we didn't find anything. We just absolutely flooded out. We kept finding opening hands with no mana in, and then we just drew nothing but mana. So, a little bit awkward. But the second game felt pretty cool though. Let's go to round 2 and see if we can turn a 1-2 into like a 2-1 or better. Alright, this looks like a bit more good old-fashioned Magic the Gathering, doesn't it? We can keep this. I'm kind of reluctant to play out the Misty Rainforest. We can get the Surveil, if that's the thing we want. But it means that if we go for the Hedge Maze, we are not playing on 3 basics, which is something we could do. Alright, our opponent's mulligan to 5. That might mean we don't care about that as much and we need to be trying to impact what our opponent is doing. So I think I am gonna play out the Misty Rainforest and Surveil, because we might need to find something like a Force of Will, Scalding Tarn. So our opponent could be a combo deck. It's just generally when people mulligan that much, you kind of expect them to be looking for a specific thing rather than just lands and spells. We're getting stifled. Let's get Hedge Maze going. Harbinger of the Seas. I have no idea if this card is going to be good or not. What sort of combo decks are we? It might not be a combo deck. So it is a blue deck. Does that mean we're just supposed to bin this off? It is a second blue card if we find a Force of Will. So I am inclined to put it on top. We can always try and brainstorm it away later. So now we can play the Baleful Strix, and if we find a Force of Will, we have a blue card to go with it. I think that's the age. If we didn't have another blue card, like this Abrupt Decay was any blue card, I think I might be getting rid of the Harbinger in that situation. Alright, Lorien Revealed. That is not a Force of Will. I think we're going to see a Surveil land in our end step. We've got some answers for frogs, if that's what our opponent's doing. Alright, we're on this little plan, are we? A Douthie Voidwalker. Okay, that's fine by me. So I think I will just play out a basic. I think we're just going to say no to this one right away. We've got another one for the next creature. Let's get an almighty bashful one with our powerful owl. Psychic Frog. Yep, we have an answer for that as well. We have a Baleful Strix, which is a pretty good answer too. So we could try to force our opponent to answer our Strix, which feels horrible for them. And then we can just decay their guy anyway. And then that takes a removal spell away from our Harbinger of the Seas, which may or may not be useful. I don't think I want to cycle this Lorien Revealed yet. A Generous Ent. That gives us a forest to work with underneath our Harbinger, but we're still not able to cast the Alluren. Okay, I'm going to play this Tropical Island. I don't want to put the Generous Ent into the bin while our opponent can mess with us. We're just going to hold up this Abrupt Decay, I think. Would you like to waste a removal spell on this Baleful Strix? Yes, they would. Excellent. Would you like to discard any cards to your little friend? They did not discard any cards. I'm so reluctant about this Generous Ent. I understand why it's here, so you can play Harbinger of the Seas and then go and get your forest and things. When it's forest cycle, you can get one of our basics. Can't get one of our basics. Fatal Push does not kill this. Blue. Blue. A Brainstorm. Alright. A little Desperation Brainstorm action. And then hopefully we can just... Alright, they just straight scoop into that. Wow, it was good. What a great Surveil. I think I like how we sideboarded before. With the Endurance, the Carpet, the 2 Soul Guide Lanterns, the Fatal Pushes, and the Fairy. I think having the Fairy in our opener is better than Living Wish. Because if we Living Wish for the Fairy, it won't do anything. Our opponent will just play around it. Like, it can be a nice thing to go and fetch, but I think it is just better in our deck. Just has a higher density of Graveyard Hate. In case you were curious. We'll take out one bird because we're bringing in the Carpet. We can take out multiple birds. We kept the Flare in... Sorry, we took the Flare out last time. But maybe we keep it in because it's easier just to hardcast this. Alright, we'll try it. I've not really played with it yet. The Harbinger of the Seas won us that game, but it won't win us another game. Like, our opponent is going to fetch around it, and it's going to do its work. Kind of tempted to take out another bird. Because they're just, like, free things for our opponent to kill a lot of the time. With, like, Bowmasters, that's almost certainly coming in here. So we'll try this. Why is the mana in this deck the way it is? Having a lot of struggles to open. I will keep this, though. We've got land into birds. Or land into Generous Ent. Because we don't have the second land, we might be pushed into doing the Generous Ent rather than the birds. Because we don't just want to open up Fatal Push, Wasteland killing us. Alright. So now our opponent definitely knows that they can Fatal Push, Wasteland us. We're not getting the full scam, but we're just getting a little half scam. Maybe they take the Alluren because it's the weird spooky card. They could take the Generous Ent and try and stunt us mana-wise if they've got a hand that is like Wastelandy, pushy. Or even just to daze the birds and then Wasteland us. And that also gives them a nice reanimation target whilst cutting us off of land, potentially. A lot for our opponent to think about here. They did take the Generous Ent. Okay, so that tells us that our opponent is probably going to be on a mana denial strategy. Unfortunately, we have zero recourse to this. We just have to play out our Birds of Paradise off of our Bayou Yep, so here's the days. Our opponent's going to play a Wasteland on the next turn, take out our Bayou. And then turn after that, they're going to reanimate our Generous Ent. Yep, alright. I called this from turn 1. This exact sequence of plays. Polluted Delta. New beauty. In case some reanimation shenanigans, I would like to ponder rather than get the Tamiyo down here. That's an any orange shuffle, I think. No land. Right, we could keep the cantrip and then cantrip next turn. But when those cantrips are brainstorms as well, that's going to be awkward. Yes, we can ponder and reset. But, right, so there's the Generous Ent like we thought might happen. I was ideally hoping for some graveyard removal because, you know, we predicted everything that's happened so far in this game. We've been powerless to do anything about it. Right, place Tamiyo out. We getting dazed or anything? No. We can't attack with the Tamiyo if their guy is back, but they're probably just going to crash for 5 every turn, because why wouldn't you? It's not as if the Tamiyo is pressuring them. We did have a line available to us of keep the cantrips, try and get the Tamiyo, and try and flip the Tamiyo and do some stuff, but that's a lot to try and find a land there. And I don't want brainstorms as our cantrips, because we probably have to start off with a brainstorm next turn so that we can unlock it with the ponder, and then things just go badly for us. Right, we're getting a fetch town being cracked over there. Okay. Bowmasters shuts off the old ponder route. This is half our life total. I think this is going to be decided in game 3. As soon as they took that Generous Ent, just griefing us as well. I don't think there's realistic anything we can do here. Yeah, I'm starting to think we don't have enough lands in our deck. But we did get, like, crushed by having too many lands in one game. I like how sideboard day, so we're just going to go back in. Are you seeing a pattern here? This is another one-lander. We do have, like, a second pseudo-land here, though. But we have to fetch non-basics to make it all work. Alright. So what is more important to me? Getting this Baleful Strix down into a potential daze. Or just getting the extra selection of getting a Hedge Maze here. I think I do want to make my land drop. How much do I want to cast as Baleful Strix is the next question. I think we're just going to have to ignore basic lands a little bit here. So we'll cycle this and get a trop. We want to keep our blues so we can get access to our cantrips. Okay, I don't really want to show my opponent that one yet. Let's see if we can get out in front of this. We don't really want to force a will anything here. It's just like a thing that we got a few copies of. Well, we may as well force of will this, right? Because we're not going to be able to use our Uro anyway. Blue, black. Let's just get another little guy in. Love Baleful Strix. What a fun little guy. Alright, let's get Surveil in. Ponder. That is an above average draw. We can kill the Bowmasters. You see a frog here? Just another Dalthy. And then reanimating the other Dalthy. Okay, that makes me less inclined to kill one of these now. But we shall see a ponder. Got the Hedge Maze. Let's ponder. Like, all these Baleful Strixes aren't doing us a world of good here. I don't want to draw double land. I think we're just going to shuffle this. Right, we drew another ponder. I think this time we want to play the island out first so that we have the most amount of options to cast. Like, whatever we want. Flare of Denial and Tamiyo. I kind of want to get the Tamiyo down. Which means giving up on the Abrupt Decay for this turn. Right, we'll leave up the green mana so they're thinking about Veil of Summer. We've got this Tamiyo, which can hopefully soak up some attention from our opponents. We've got the Flare of Denial we can sit on afterwards. A Psychic Frog. This is a better target for an Abrupt Decay, I would say. Now, they do have unblockable guys. So we could just hold back the Frog with our Baleful Strixes. If our opponent wants to bin a load of cards to jump the Frog, then be my guest. So now we sit back on our card draw, on our Abrupt Decay, and our Strixes. We've got a Flare of Denial as well. Right, they didn't play anything at end step. So I don't believe our opponent currently has an Orcish Bowmasters. Yeah, you stay at home, Frog. I think we do have to kill one of these. Otherwise our life total is just going to be under too much pressure. This does put an Abrupt Decay underneath a Dalthy Voidwalker, which may be relevant in time. We have a choice about drawing additional cards now, or trying to flip the Tamiyo. Tamiyo can reduce our opponent's clock. Do I want... I think we're going to card in response here. If they have a Bowmaster, they would have had to have drawn it this turn. Because I think they would have played it at end step to take out one of our Baleful Strixes. They're trying to kill our Tamiyo. I guess we counterspell their frog, sacrificing the Tamiyo. That's all lined up relatively well. We do still need to deal with this Douthie. A living wish, you say? I think we're going to go and get a basic forest here. Deploy an Aluren. Now, our opponent can use the Aluren as well, which is an important thing to keep in mind. They can flash in some frogs and borrowers and stuff. But the reason we're doing this is if our opponent's got a counterspell for this and wants to fight over it, we can then go again next turn. If we draw the land, we can deploy the wish and the Aluren. So we have a win next turn if our opponent doesn't do anything. Right, they didn't flash in a creature, that's good. What do they have underneath our guy? They've got the Flare of Denial and the Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay doesn't kill Aluren itself. Alright, they are attacking with the Voidwalker rather than keeping it back to give them a counterspell. That is excellent news for us. It's a Hardcast Grief. Or just another Douthie. Because you don't have to pay for it. You can play it for free with the Aluren. The fact they put black in the pool is making me think that they have the Douthie. Some people forget that they get to use the Aluren as well. So I do think we want the land, just so we have extra mana to play around whatever our opponent may be throwing us. Can I cast this Living Wish, please? I'll put the Acererak in our hand. We can do this at instant speed, but we don't want them to untap with a Douthie. So we're probably going to do it in our end step. I guess it doesn't matter. They're probably not going to do anything until we pass priority in our end step. So we may as well do it in our main phase. That way we at least get to play the things that we have. If we like draw a few cards with it or whatever. Alright, we'll cast this for free. Let's go into Lost Mine. Let's scry. Yeah, I'll take that on top. We're going to get the treasure in case we need to recast an Aluren here. Yeah, you can flash in a Douthie Voidwalker. Let's go to Dark Pool. Yield to this. And we're just going to keep doing this until something happens. Get Goblin Lair this time. And I'm just going to cut to when this either wins the game or our opponent interacts with us. Alright, our opponent has seen the writing on the wall and they have scooped it up. So we've managed to split 2 rounds, 1-1 with the Scam deck. Yeah, like, if we don't stumble over our mana, I think we've got some pretty good cards in this matchup. Like, if they're not playing Orcish Bowmasters, then Baleful Strix is pretty good. It can check the frog and it's something they have to deal with. The Douthie Voidwalkers go past it, sure, but it's pretty tasty there. Uro is great against Scam decks in general. They take a load of your cards. You just play an Uro. It doesn't care what zone it's in until you put it in play, and then you're getting some nice value. And just a nice oops, I win button that we can assemble too. Alright, let's go to round 3. Well, well, well. If it isn't the recurring problem of not having enough lands in our opening hand. I guess we can maybe get a Trop and play the birds. Alright, this is probably going to be Eldrazi. That's the most common deck that runs Cavern these days. No turn 1 play. Our opponent is unlikely to wasteland us on turn 1. Is unlikely to waste us after our turn 1 because they would like to get something on board here, especially if we're going to play out of birds. So we're just going to be brave and just be like, oh yeah, we're playing our Birds of Paradise. We've clearly got stuff here. We've got lands. We've got mana. You're not going to want to play the wasteland game. You want to play the aggro game before we manage to do our stuff. That's what I was trying to represent here. And it looks like we've succeeded. Okay. And now we found another land. So we can kill this if we want to, but I don't know if we care. We can play the Uro, which isn't great. We can play the Baleful Strix and a Ponder. That's pretty good. Are we going to want to... I'm just trying to think about the Ponder in terms of... If we want multiple cards in the Ponder, do we want to keep our fetch hand? So we can crack our fetch hand now and have a look at the full cards in the Ponder and decide if we want all of them. Or we can do the Ponder now knowing we're only going to get one of them. It's kind of an interesting approach here. So I think we will Ponder here. And we just take the best one of the bunch. Baleful Strix, you are probably the best one of the bunch here, aren't you? So now we're going to get an Underground Sea, I think, here. And deploy the Baleful Strix. Not entirely impossible that our opponent run something into our Force of Will at some point, because they run the old Kozilek's command, which is something that we can nab with our Force of Will, even though we can't hit any of their Eldrazi's while they've got Cavern. Right, they've got an Ivugan, so they've got access to some big time Eldrazi over there. Sowing Microspawn. It can't be countered, so we just have to look at this and go, uh-oh. Alright, they've just got an Eldrazi Temple, which means there's going to be another Eldrazi follow-up right now, which could be a Thought-Knot Sphere. But we could counterspell this one. Alright, we do get to counterspell this one. Which of these cards is weakest? I think it's probably the Tamiyo. We can outclass a creature with an Uro. The Tamiyo is not where I want to be right now. Alright, we did find a place for our Force of Will. Attacking is bad for our opponent. Alright, they're just going to attack straight into this, are they? Yeah, I'll take that trade. We've got another one. An Alluren. An Alluren is certainly intriguing, but is it also terrifying? Like, how many creatures can our opponent play next turn? It's probably quite a lot, right? They've got an Eye of Ugin anyway. Okay, so we need blue, blue, green, green to escape this. Like, can we? No, we can escape it. Yeah, because escaping is casting it from your graveyard, right? Actually, I don't think we get to cast the back side of Uro from the graveyard, actually, do we? Thinking about it, because it's escape is a replacement, or is an alternative casting cost, effectively. So I don't think that's where we want to be there. I think we want to get a green source and a black source, so we just want to get Bayou and round out our colours here. Now, this Alluren could be disastrous for us. We can kind of do things at our own pace, but casting the Uro now makes more sense because we can put a land into play. It might help us get towards the casting of the Baleful Strix. Alright, how many creatures are our opponent going to put in our end step? Alright, they just F6 through our turn. That's good news. Because they could have played like a Line Breaker, more at the Hell's End, Flesh Raker. Yeah, exactly that sort of stuff. Now they get to play free stuff with a Flesh Raker on board. Okay. They still want to cast this, because whatever they're going to cast now, they want it to be uncounterable. So it looks like it's going to be another Sowing Microspawn. So we have to make a decision what we're doing here. What could we find with a Baleful Strix? Nothing, but we could block with a Baleful Strix. And then we get to Abrupt Decay, the Flesh Raker next turn. Okay, so we're going to exile our Underground Sea, get a Wasteland, and just get rid of all of our mana. Pretty much. I don't think there's any reason why we Baleful Strix now. Okay, I think we've made a slight mistake, perhaps. If we'd have found Harbinger of the Tides, that would have been a very strong draw there. I was too tunneled in on attacking with this and forgot that we're running Harbinger because we've been boarding it out in the first couple of rounds. That would be a place to go here. Because we could have stopped our opponent being able to cast some of their dry stuff. But then they can still cast them for free. But just not the same Microspawn. Another one. Alright. They could have just taken out all of our lands. Curious as to why they didn't do that. So next turn they're going to be able to cradle for whatever they want off of the Ivugan. But if they'd have targeted this swamp and got a wasteland, they could have taken out these two with wastelands. I just got a temple. If the top card of our library is a Harbinger of the Tides, then I have made a mistake that was probably going to cost us this game. It's definitely going to be there now, isn't it? It was not there, okay. It was a mistake still not to cast out. But we do get the block here. So now we have a Harbinger of the Seas. We can Abrupt Decay this Flesh Raker. Actually, can we... If we play the... This combo is pretty cute, the Harbinger of the Seas and the Carpet Flowers. So if we play the Harbinger of the Seas... So we play the... Yeah, okay, this makes sense to me. So we cast this for free. Then we cast the Carpet. Then we go to second main. We'll go and get some green mana here. And we will kill this. Can't bring back our Uro just yet. But we're working on it. If we find any land in our deck at this point, we can cast the Uro. Now, they've got the ability to play creatures through Alluren. But they can't tutor for stuff. And they've just got 2/3/3s in play. I can probably beat these if we find any land and just stick an Uro. Right, we found the land. So this targets our opponents. And we make blue mana. We have green, green here. So we name blue mana. So look, we don't have an option to cast it any other way other than escape. No, we need to play our land first, don't we? Green, green, cast the Uro. Destroy Draw a card. It's a Force of Will. Not the most useful right now, but we have an Uro in play. I think I underestimated this Carpet Flowers Harbinger of Ties deck. I'm liking it. I'm going to steal that. Alright, our opponent just scoop into it. Yeah. Okay, this feels like a matchup that we definitely are glad we have Harbinger of Tides in our deck. This is a matchup where Toxic Deluge probably has some text, and the Fatal Pushes and the Consign to Memory are the sort of things we're interested in, and there is an argument for bringing in the Boseiju instead of having it as a thing we go and grab. But that's always tricky knowing what those are, because our opponent is a Wasteland deck, and I have been feeling like we've been a bit light on land. So I'm kind of into this Boseiju. So what are we boarding out here? The Carpet is only good with the Harbinger of the Harbinger of the Seas, but the Harbinger of the Seas is just good anyway. Our counter magic isn't great. Like, we kind of need it, but we also kind of don't want it a lot of the time, which is a weird place to be. Is this a matchup where we have time to be doing ponderings as well, is another question. I think we can probably trim at least 2 Force of Wills here. We can hard cast the Flare of Denial. And what are we trimming here? Is it Ponders? It could be the Ponders. Although the Ponders gets us towards the Harbinger of the Seas. We could board out 1 Harbinger of the Seas, so we effectively got 5 in the deck. So we can turn 2 Living Wish, turn 3 Harbinger of the Seas. But the fact they're in the main deck and there's not one in the sideboard means that this is probably the correct configuration, because the person who built this deck is an absolute master of Alluren. So I'm going to assume that they know what they're doing, and I'm going to leave that as is. So now we still need to cut some other cards. Is Tamiyo too slow to leverage in this matchup? It makes the Flare of Denial worse. So if we take the Flare of Denial back out and have the Forces and take those out, would I like another Force of Will though? I think I do want the Force of Will just to protect our Harbinger of the Seas. The Ponder does help us get there, but we need to ramp as well. Baleful Strix is excellent. Having an I win button in a combo matchup is very good. Alright, I think that's what I'm going to go with. I don't think we should be playing the Carpet against non-blue matchups. We got some basics. We've got a Ponder. This hand is pretty clunky though. Do better. Like, this is just going to sit there and get beaten up by an Eldrazi player. This has the best card and some cantrips to find there and a very good sideboard card. So I think this is a keep, and we're probably getting rid of the Brainstorm. We've got 2 Brainstorms and a Ponder. We can Living Wish for the Talon Gates if we have to. It's a land that we're allowed to shoot it for. So I probably am playing around Wasteland here. So I think this is go and get a snow-covered island. I think I have to Ponder here. So if their next land is Yavimaya, then they can just cast that guy, and that's pretty annoying for us. I think we are pondering. We just need to make sure we hit land drops here. Alright, land drops. We'll put the Wish on the bottom. We'll hide the Boseiju in case our opponent thinks they can, if they like Thought Not Seer us, then they might not know that we can jam them up. Alright, no play. So this is a Kozilek's command. Well, X equals 2. That's the sort of thing that they're representing over there. So I think we just play out this Trop and hold up the Consign. And that'll get us through a turn, hopefully. A Wasteland. Not a fan of that one. The top card of our library is Living Wish. Do we want to Brainstorm past the next 2 cards as well? And then be more mana efficient on the following turn? I think so. Okay, not a fan. No Wasteland us in the upkeep. So this is only hitting triggered abilities, so it's not quite a Stifle. I could Boseiju away their land, but that takes one of our lands, and I don't think that's where I want to be. I think we're just going to hold up the Consign to Memory again. Your Eldrazi deck is pretty scary. Glaring Fleshraker. Let's just hit that and say no, because this will let their whole turn snowball. So they might not be able to... Well, they probably can play something here. Just another Fleshraker. It is, but we're lagging a bit, so we've got a slight delay between when it pops up in the text on the right and when it actually happens. Right, they can play another creature if they want to. So we're about to draw a Baleful Strix, which does not help us out. So if we view the sideboard, what do we have available to us here? These cards are not helpful right now. I guess we could go get a Tamiyo. That seems a little bit squiffy. We could get the Talon Gates just to have a land. which allows us to put in the euro if we draw a land after that. I can buy that. I'm not actually going to play it though, because if we can put the euro in, we can just have an euro and start attacking with it next turn, or the turn after next. Otherwise, we can filter mana through the gate. Yeah, I don't care about that. We can filter mana through the gate to give us black mana for the Baleful Strix, is the other option. So some nice plays available to us. The Birds of Paradise, you say? That is not helpful right now. If you phase out tokens, it doesn't actually make a difference. They still come back. Because phasing is not like blinking something. Blue, and we'll make black off of this by paying 1. Alright, we've got a Death Touch Bird. Now we have a Hedge Maze that we annoyingly could have played if we played the Talon Gates out last time, but I think the upside of having a 6/6 body in play that gains us 3 life and draws us a card every turn is too high to pass up. So we might have blunted our opponent's tax for a little bit. I don't think they want to jam their Fleshraker into the Strix. It's more powerful just sat there spewing out tokens. And then we can jam the Uro. What fresh hell is this? Kozilek's Command. Alright, they're going to make spawns and do some scrying and then drawing a card. So their card quality is going to be pretty high here. They're also going to have a whole bunch of tokens that are draining us, which also give them mana to play around a Harbinger of the Seas. So I think our opponent is well in charge. That's going to be on the play for the final round is going to be handy for sure. Fleshraker pinging us down. So if they just find Kozilek's Command and just chain them into one into each other with an Eye of Ugin, it kind of refreshes itself every time. And they can just drain us out. Is that what's happening here? Could be. To find another Kozilek's Command, I think we're in trouble. So every time they cast one, they get an additional Fleshraker token. So it gets slightly bigger each time. Because the Eye of Ugin basically pays for the colourless cost. It doesn't actually pay for the colourless cost, but it means that the first 2 spawn you sack, you're still getting the 2 off the X spell. If they've got another one, we're dead. Thought Not Seer. That doesn't kill us. So what do we need to find here? We can't play an Alluren. I'd probably take the Uro here. I think that's by far the scariest thing we have in our hand. If we have some sort of way of cheating it in. I guess it doesn't even matter then, but the 3 life is really big deal still. Pretty sure our opponent just has us cooked. It did take the Uro. Now we have a Ponder. What could Ponder possibly find us to get us out of this hole? Nothing, because we have a Chalice in play. Alright. What am I thinking? I do still like the Toxic Deluge. Yes, it costs us life, but if we're stripping all our opponent's creatures, that's so strong. Because getting hit by a creature one time is about the amount we'll pay for Toxic Deluge anyway. Alright, I think I'm just going to go... Would I rather have a Tamiyo to Ponders? I don't think so. Okay, we can keep this. We can play on basics. It will slow down our Abrupt Decay is the only issue. A Devourer of Destiny. I don't think we get to play with basics here, right? Maybe this one has to be a basic. But then if this one is a basic and this one isn't, then that's kind of awkward too, in another way. I think we just get a Trop here. We have the flex of Baleful Strix and Abrupt Decay. Consign to Memory is a good card here. I do want the Uro. I don't think we need a Force of Will here though. So I guess we'll put them this way. Then we can draw the Uro and shuffle with the Lorien Revealed if we want to, whilst holding up the Consign to Memory. I think I called Consign to Oblivion in a previous video. What's this going to be? A Chalice. How do I feel about Chalice? Like, Consign to Memory still works through it because of the Replicate. And we can blow it up if we need to. I don't think this is our fight. Our deck does not need to play 1-drops to win the game. Alright, so play out this Swamp. And we're going to hold up the Decay, the Consign to Memory, and the Cycle on the Lorien Revealed. We can't cycle and Consign to Memory though, because we do need to pay the Replicate to get it done. So Glaring Fleshraker, it is. Okay, so I would like to cast this with Replicate. I would like to replicate it. There we go, blue and this. So this will counter the original, but the copy will still go through. Do I want to draw the card that's on top of our library? I don't think I do. I can't remember what it is now. It was the Force of Will, wasn't it? We could draw a Force of Will actually here. And have that to pitch. And then we cycle this into an Underground Sea. And we get the first creature on the board. Talon Gates. Okay, we can phase some stuff out. We get to put our OO in and do the thing next turn, which is going to be pretty sick. I've not got to do that yet since it's come out, so excited. We can see a big Eldrazi here. A Glaring Fleshraker. We have an answer for this, but I think we just want to keep the momentum going and just say no to their spells, especially these ones that are very snowbally. Sure, you can have a 2-mana 2/2. So we play this one out. Actually, we probably shouldn't have played that one out, should we? Now I think about it. So if we draw a Surveil land... Well, I guess we're never putting a Surveil land in, but if we draw it, we could play it off of the Talon Gates. Let's phase out our Uro, so we don't have to sacrifice it. Oh, that feels so good. That's the dream right there. So on our turn, we get to attack with a Uro. A Lotus Petal. We are shields down for anything our opponent wants to do to us right now. But, okay. It's a Null Drifter. A hard-cast Null Drifter. It's a 5/5, which is smaller than our Uro. So I think we want to get a green source here. So this is the Hedge Maze. I don't think we need this one. No. Welcome back, Uro. We can't cast this Brainstorm because of the Chalice. We could blow it up and then cast the Brainstorm, but I don't think that's worth doing. Right, let's send an enormous creature at our opponent. I will put this land into play, since I don't believe we're going to be getting rid of their Chalice anytime soon. If they blocked here, we could have blown up the Herald's End, and we want to have permanents in play so we can just let them get eaten by the Null Drifter if it wants to attack. Bit dicey attacking the old Baleful Strix unless they've got an answer. But they've already shown us Kozilek's Command, which will kill our creature. So this is going to be the Devourer, I think, because we saw it in their opener. There it is. So this takes out the Uro, unfortunately. We don't have a real... We do have an answer to this. Because this exiles it, and we don't want it to be exiled. This is target our own Uro. Not how I intended to use that particular Magic the Gathering card. So green, green, blue, blue. So we can lose our Talon Gates here. Go to blocks. I will take this Null Drifter out, please. Let's get Surveil land. I think we have the Undercity Sewers in there still. Yep, there it is. A Generous Ent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe? This card is pretty reasonable on this board. Maybe that's the sketch you want to keep, but get rid of creatures so we can get them if we want them. And some tech lands. It doesn't really matter what else we get rid of here. Alright. Some life to work with. They do have a 7/7. Maybe we're not supposed to keep this there, but we can go and fetch for a forest. So it's going to be easier for us to play around if we find the Harbinger. So I think this is worth turning into a forest, actually. We probably should have done an R10 if we were going to do that, thinking about it. Okay. We've got a kicked Mycospawn. What would you like to do with it? I would like to hit our tropical island, and they're probably going to get rid of our Hedge Maze with a Wasteland and just try and take us off green. I wonder if our opponent wants to try and attack. They're going after Undercity Sewers. That seems weird. You could take us off of a colour. Okay. We're definitely not casting this now, so let's... Oh, we've got... Oh, okay. They've got the Yavimaya in play. But... Intriguing. We have an Uro. Are we attacking with this Uro? Are we playing our own Uro? Here. We can't recast the Uro from the bin. If we play this snow-covered forest, we can hold up spells that we can't cast anyway. Actually, if they kill our Uro, we can bring it back. And it'll be kind of like pseudo-vigilance here. It will just be running this in. Is that better than just casting an Uro from hand? Probably not, no. We want to keep the good one. Put this in. I don't think we're attacking here. Like, if we could trade with the Devourer, then I would attack. But our opponent is kind of at this little stalemate. We are behind on clock, though. We've had a little bit of lag this game. And some really interesting lines to think about. Okay, that is a scary-looking thing. But this can only tap for green mana. So they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 mana towards it. So we don't have to worry about that for a little while. If we can find a Harbinger of the Tides or an Abrupt Decay, we get to start doing things. Oh, they've got another Mycospawn. Oh, that's going to be sick. Okay, it's a Chalice for 2. That is something we will have to deal with at some point, because we can't Living Wish through this. Okay, we found an answer to it almost immediately. I think the correct play here is to hit the Chalice with this, the Chalice on 1, and then unload our Only cost 1 because of the legendary creature we have in play. I didn't have anything to fetch off of it. Okay, so I would like to... I guess we brainstorm first. Found the Aluren. That's one of the things we're looking for. So I guess we put this on top and this on top. And then we cast this Ponder to try and shuffle them away. Yeah, I think this is in any order in shuffle. Force of Will isn't the most exciting thing I've ever seen. We'll hold it for our blue card. Again, we're not attacking here. So another thing this Chalice on 2 does is it means that we can't play a Baleful Strix and just attack them for a little bit in the sky. A Wasteland. Okay. We're probably going to go after our black source because the Yavimaya is giving us all the green mana. Unless they're planning on getting rid of their own Yavimaya at some point. Birds of Paradise. Not the most exciting one there, is it? Alright. Let's brainstorm. Harbinger of the Seas. That is the one that we wanted. We don't need this Aluren right now. We don't really need this either. This is blue, blue, whatever. Let's play Harbinger. Am I going to play this Birds of Paradise out? I think so. Gives us access to green to cast the Aluren if we want to. I don't think we're attacking here. Okay, so now we're on the clock. That's the main thing I'm worried about now. Opponent does have a way so they can cast stuff, but they can't cast like a Devourer because they don't have 2 colourless sources. Right, so I think we play this one out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. I don't think we do anything this turn. I think we just wait another turn. And a Decay to kill this at the Herald's End. That'll be handy. And Aluren. I don't want to play that just yet. Like a Toxic Deluge, we can strip out some guys, but it will come at the cost of our own guy. Living Wish that we can't cast because of the Chalice on 2. We will cast this Brainstorm because we can hard cast the Force. Alright, so we found the Decay here. That's the one we wanted. So we'll put this back. We don't want to put that one back yet. We can play this one a touch slower. So we put this on top and the Wish or the Aluren. Put the Aluren on top. Okay, so we can blow this up for green and black. Abrupt Decay can't be countered. We can cast this. Living Wish. Let's go and get the Acererak. It won't take many loops because our opponent is very close to being dead. Got pitch cast Force of Will to get us through another turn. And then we just got to click through the Acererak and we've made it. Alright, we got the match. That was tougher than I thought it would be. Like, obviously the Harbinger is a massive haymaker. But when our opponent's on the play, the deck is still so powerful they can just run us down. But we are 3 rounds in. And we're 2-1, so let's go to round 4. Once again, we're in the Valley of One-Landers. Alright, who am I to throw away these One-Landers that have been treating us with reasonable success so far? Is this where we just get griefed? They see that what our plan is here. They take our Lorien Revealed. Have a Wasteland. We play that game all over again that we played earlier. Certainly a possibility. Alright, we're back on the old Eldrazi. So our Carpet Flowers is no good here. I'm not big into our Tamiyo either. It's like a 0-3 where we're rarely going to be able to leverage the card advantage it gives us. What did they exile? Cavern of Souls. Would I like to cast this Ponder more than this Lorien Revealed? That is an interesting question. I think I would rather have the guaranteed land of the Lorien Revealed so we can play the Baleful Strix guaranteed on turn 2. Like, if I'm casting this Ponder looking for a land, why am I doing that when I literally have a cantrip in my hand that finds a land specifically? Yes, Ponder is a better card, but what am I looking for? Like, yes, we might be able to set up a really nice thing if it goes well with like a land and a cool spell and stuff like that. But it's just not what this game is about right now. It's about getting to like turn 4. Thought Not Seer. I would like a tropical island, please. We just want colours. Please take my Carpet of Flowers. Or don't take my Carpet of Flowers and then we Harbinger the Ties you and make loads of mana. That'd be funny. I think it's the Aluren that goes here, because that's just a way that we can go, oops, I win, and our opponent will be sad. It might be the Baleful Strix, though, just so they don't want us to dig deeper and also have a nice blocker. It does depend on the texture of their hand right now. If they've got some like good removal, like a Kozilek's Command, they're happy to fire off onto Baleful Strix, they might just let us have it and just take the thing that they're worried about maybe going over the top of them later. If their hand is really fast, they don't care about the Aluren, then they'll take the Baleful Strix. and just sort of smashed our front doors in really quickly. I wonder if they take the Ponder. What would that signify if they did? Possibly that they're going to be attacking our mana in the very near future and they don't want us to have like secure land drops. That's probably what that means. But I think really it's between the Alluren and the Baleful Strix. Because if we're spending time pondering, we're not committing to the board or dealing with anything they've got on the board. They did take the Baleful Strix. Okay. Okay, we just need some mana and our opponent not to kill us. Harbinger of the Seas. You are not the land though. That is an unfortunate one. I think this has to be in any order in shuffle. I've thrown away one of our best cards because we don't have enough mana in our deck. Yikes. Okay, Tamiyo. We've got another Tamiyo to pitch to the Force of Will. I'm not expecting to have the time to draw cards off this, but maybe we can flip it and minus, and that does something for us. It's like minus their creatures, not minus the Tamiyo. But that can do something for us as well. A Devourer of Destiny. Okay. And I do not want our opponent to have a 6/6, so I'm going to say no to that one. I don't want them to be punching us in the face of 10 next turn. That's not going to help us get our mana underneath us. Okay, let's cast a Living Wish. We're looking for a land here. We'll get a green land. We'll play a green land. Am I going to play a Carpet of Flowers, or am I going to hold it for Brainstorm purposes? If we play the Carpet of Flowers and find the Harbinger of the Tides, we'll have enough mana to make Alluren immediately. That is an interesting thing to think about. So, I don't really need a Brainstorm to do anything other than turn into one land. So I think I am going to play this Carpet, as weird as that is. If we draw the Harbinger of the Tides next turn, it allows us to generate a bunch of mana. I think that is worth it. It's a weird look, for sure. It's a cavern. What fresh hell is this? Blue mana. Is this a Null Drifter? Both those Ancient Tombs and get a little Null Drifter. In that case, I'm glad I've got a Carpet of Flowers that I can pitch to the Null Drifter Annihilator trigger. Feels like we're looking at a hard cast Null Drifter though. Nope, just this guy that's going to absolutely wreck our hand. Sure. Yikes. Like, we've got some good tools this matchup, but Eldrazi is probably the number 2 deck in the format right now. I think it's obviously Rescaminator, and then I think it's probably Eldrazi, and then you're looking at like Grixis Delver and Cloud Post after that. Obviously Grixis Delver has great game into everything, potentially. I didn't take our Alluren, but we only have one Living Wish left in our deck. Lorien Revealed. What does that do for us? Almost nothing. Right, let's Island Cycle. We don't have any black costs in our deck. We do have blue costs. If we just deploy the Undercity Sewers here, and if we get the Hedge Maze, we can't be wasted off of green. That's probably the correct choice then, isn't it? Get in the bin, Tamiyo. You are no good here. Just a little 0/3 creature in this aggressive aggro deck where they can just ignore it and we don't have time to activate it. Alright, opponent. What would you like to do this turn? Eldrazi Linebreaker? Just put us out of our misery? I've seen a lot of the Eldrazi decks shying away from Linebreaker lately and just going straight mono green, because then you get a Cradle as a tech piece, which can, alongside a Eye of Ugin, just gets you where you need to go. Oh, look how close we are. So close. We cannot win. Ugh. Where are your islands, opponent? Okay, so I'm going to put this Carpet of Flowers over here. I'm also going to put these Tamiyos over here. I think having the Boseiju against a land destruction deck is probably a reasonable place to be. I liked that last time. It worked okay for us. Pushes, the Consigns, and the Deluges feel good. If we're boarding out the Tamiyo, the Flare looks very bad. And then we're just looking to cut one more card here, which is probably going to be a Force. It's either a Force or like a Ponder, I think. I think we want to keep the birds because we need to ramp out to get through what our opponent's doing. I think it's going to be a Ponder because we probably want to hold up mana for our Consigns. Just like having more mana versus a deck that can like plow under you on a guy. Okay, I'll keep this. We got Consign, we got Baleful Strix. I think we play out the Misty Rainforest and just get that sweet Surveil action here. We're probably going to get a Bayou. That rounds out our colours. Wait, if we want to surveil, we don't have the underground mortuary, do we? So it's either... It has to be the Undercity Sewers, right? Because we want to be able to cast our Baleful Strix. And we need to find another land before we can cast a Euro anyway. It does feel awkward trying to choose the correct land in this setup. We could just go and get a Bayou, cast a Baleful Strix, and have access to all of our colours. I guess we'll see what our opponent does. And I'll draw the Temple and a 2-mana 2-2. There it is. Do I want to counterspell a 2-mana 2-2? I don't think so. I think we're just going to play the Strix. I think we are getting the Bayou rather than the Surveil land. It's close. It is really close. But we have so many basics in our deck. I don't want to just get caught short with, like, not all of our colours available when we want to sort of curve these things. Like if we drew just, like, another snow-covered island, for example. Or we fetch the Undercity Sewers and draw the swamp, you know. It lets us avoid the worst scenarios by not fetching there. A Birds of Paradise. Nope, I think I just want the Baleful Strix here. Is that 100% true, actually? Like, the Toxic Deluge gets worse if we have our own Birds of Paradise, but... I'm kind of tempted to not play the Strix right now. But if we get Wastelanded, that's so disastrous. But I guess we're playing the birds out anyway. Yeah, I don't want to get Thought-Knot Seared this turn. Right, I think we're just going to play out the birds. Maybe that's cowardly. But playing a Baleful Strix to block an It That Hell's the End, whatever. That's not the thing it's there to block. I'd rather block something a little bit larger if possible. And if we can stop the Thought-Knot Sear from picking a hole in our hand, that means we're going to end up with a little bit more chance at assembling our combo. Or just being able to wrath the board if that's what we want to do. I'll certainly trade my Birds of Paradise and some life to wrath their board with a Toxic Deluge. So it's like Thought-Knot Sear mana. Boom. Sign to memory, please. We could play the Uro, or we could play the Baleful Strix. See what we draw. A Brainstorm. Okay. I think that answers the question for us. Let's Brainstorm first. I like having more lands, as you probably... I quite like the Generous Ent too. We're probably going to end up with all of these, right? We put 2 back. We draw one immediately with the Baleful Strix. And then we can shuffle with the Generous Ent if we want. Do I want to shuffle with the Generous Ent? I just want the Brainstorm, don't I? In case they have... another Thought-Knot Sear. We want to hide the Alluren, I think. We also want to hide the Euro, but I think the Alluren is our best bet out of this one. So we put the Alluren and then the Brainstorm on top. Black, blue. We'll draw one of those cards. The Alluren's still safe on top. We'll play out this Boseiju. I do not want to be doing Generous Ent stuff here. Dismember on a Baleful Strix. Sure. So we could deploy the Euro. Our opponent didn't play anything with their Ancient Tunes, which makes me think they don't have anything to play with them. So I think now is actually a reasonable time to get this Uro down off of the Alluren. We could buy that. We could have cycled our Generous Ent, really, couldn't we? Okay, in case we find the Harbinger, we want to be doing this now. We could also find the Talon gates. How worried am I about our opponent having access right now to a Kozilek's Command? That would be the sort of card that they haven't cast. So I'm going to go to our end step and see if they do anything on our end step. Otherwise, we can always put flashes in an upkeep. No, he didn't have it. That's interesting. Wait, have I messed that up? Kozilek's Command is... Power, is it mana value? I've just blanked on that one for a second. So they couldn't have killed this Kozilek's Command if it's converted mana cost. Yeah, I think I messed that one up. We could have just put that in. And now they've just got a perfect opportunity to Kozilek's Command this. Ugh, that was a horrible play. Quite a long league recording this one so far, but excuse there. I was talking about the Kozilek's Command. Yeah, it is mana value. Yeah, we just messed that one up there. Yikes. This is our opponent's entire turn, at least. Yeah, that was a horrible play. Now, that's not to say they didn't have something else, but I feel the way they cast that Kozilek's Command, they probably didn't have anything else. We should have just been able to shut it down. Unclaimed territory. Yeah, this is mana value, not power or toughness. Okay, Brainstorm. Can we win the game? Nice. We've got a shuffle effect for this Brainstorm as well. Thankfully, Alluren doesn't allow them to cast Thought-Knot Sears because it's only mana value 3 or less. We do get to win the game. Yes. Okay, I guess we put whatever back, right? Are they going to make us click through it? That's the real mystery. Right, they didn't dismember our guy, which is definitely a real thing. Alright, our opponent's scooping it up. Yeah, dismember is the thing they could have had there. The turn with the Harbinger was just bad. I for a very brief second I blanked on this and then immediately passed the turn and then realised what happened. I just thought this was power for some reason. Alright, let's go to the sideboard. Wait, we're already in the sideboard. Let's go to the third game then. This hand is a turn 2 Harbinger of the Tides. You know I'm keeping this one. We've also got basic lands to play off of. Baleful Strix is going to be a little bit harder to cast. Thought-Knot Seer obviously going to wreck our day. Oh, was it turn 1 Thought-Knot Seer? Is that what you want to do to me? I think it probably is. Alright, so we're going to lose our Harbinger of the Tides, almost certainly here. Or Harbinger of the Seas, sorry. I keep calling Harbinger of the Tides. That's probably a completely different Magic the Gathering card. Oh, I took the birds. It's trying to slow us down, are they? Interesting. Right, so I guess we play out the Brainstorm. We can brainstorm some stuff around, looking for the land for next turn. We can hide cards for a Thought-Knot Seer. We got some options. We can dig for the emergency Force of Will. Right, in the Thought-Knot Seer goes. It's kind of like getting griefed, isn't it? Alright, we will cast this now in the hopes that we can play. Oh no. Oh no. That was not what we wanted to happen, was it? I guess I'll put these Toxic Deluge on top. Right. This means we are having to cast this Living Wish to go and get our Talon gates. Which means it's harder for us to combo. But next turn we can play the Baleful Strix, try and draw through our pile, and also present a really useful blocker. A Wasteland. Okay. A little bit rude, but I can live with it. I don't really have much choice, do I? I guess we phase this out. Can. So our opponent's kind of living in fear of us having the Harbinger now. Ooh, a Swamp. That allows us to Toxic Deluge if we need to. Or, if they don't Wasteland us, we play Harbinger of the Seas. I will immediately snap off a block, given a Waste Escape Battle Mage. Exile target artifact or enchantment. You got it, boss. Alright, you destroy my land. So you can pay 4 life, kill all their guys. And draw a card. Not a big fan of that, but it answers the problems immediately. They haven't shown us any of the haste guys yet. We can play Harbinger of the Seas next turn if we get a good spot to do so. We can play the Baleful Strix and Brainstorm. Oh, they really got the Line Breaker. They do have the Line Breaker. They didn't show it to us at all. Oh dear. So this is just a Reality Smasher and kills us. Yeah. Gets +1/+0, but we're on 4. If we play the Baleful Strix out there, we still die. I guess we get to draw one more card if we play the Baleful Strix. Oh, okay. Play the Baleful Strix, block that, take 2, go to 6. Force of Will, the Line Breaker. Yeah, we had a different line there, rather than just getting rid of their guys. Actually, no, because if we play the Baleful Strix, we don't draw. Because we drew a card off of the Thought-Knot Seer. So we wouldn't have had the Force of Will for the Line Breaker anyway, and then we just had like a Massive Trampoline going. Yeah, we didn't actually have a line out of that one. We need our opponent to be 1 turn slower, basically. Yeah, this Eldrazi deck is scary stuff. And I'll be honest, the mana base on our deck does not make me happy. Alright, 4 rounds in the book. We are looking at a 2-2 record, and we are playing the full 3 of every time. So let's see if we'll play the full 3 of in the final round. Let's go to it. At some point, you just have to embrace the one-landers that we are inundated with. Alright, I'll keep it. I think we all know what my first comment is going to be afterwards. Alright, I would like to play a Tamiyo. We have a basic land, so we're not worried about wastelanding. The downside of this is if our opponent strips our Generous Ent from our hand. A Cloud Post, eh? This should be a matchup we can do some stuff in. We don't have any nice bullets in the sideboard for this. We can get the Boseiju, that's something. What am I doing with this turn? I think we're attacking, obviously. And then I think we play the Swamp. And then we have to make some choices. Are we just drawing more cards? Or are we deploying the front half of an Uro next turn? Front half of an Uro doesn't really impress me that much. I think I'm probably going to draw the card here. Find a way of flipping this Tamiyo. We can try and win the game off of that. But we're just digging for our Harbinger of the Tides, really. Vexing Bauble. If we counter this, we don't get to counter anything else. This does kind of jam our deck up a bunch. Because Alluren into Vexing Bauble Not where I want to be. Go on, you're going to play another one, aren't you? I feel it in my bones. No? Okay. I would very much like to draw a card here. Baleful Strix. That's a good card. Land? Not a land. So we cycle this for a dual land of some description. What dual land do we want? It needs to be blue to cast Baleful Strix. Probably needs to be green, so probably looking at a tropical island. No, that's not right. We can't cast a Baleful Strix that way. We cast a Living Wish this way. Oh, that was a horrible turn. What am I doing? We needed the Bayou there. Was it the no, is it Bayou or the Underground Sea? So we're probably just drawing another card here with the Tamiyo. That is not how I should have spent that turn. We could have done the same thing, but also had a 1/1 guy in play. We do need the green. It should have been the Bayou we got. It was just sloppy. I'm sorry. I don't think we want to Living Wish for the Boseiju. I think that ship has kind of sailed a little bit here. I think the way we win this game is comboing or finding our Harbinger of the Tide. So I'd rather dig to find the Harbinger. Actually, no, because we want... Yeah, so the reason we got the Trop is so we can cast a Harbinger. And a Bayou doesn't cast a Harbinger. So yeah, we were right to get a blue source. And if we wanted to cast the Baleful Strix, it should have been an Underground Sea. Then we wouldn't have any green mana. So yeah, we were right to get Trop thinking about it. We lose out on 1 power, but we open up our draw that just wins the game for us. We shut ourselves out of colours. Die to whatever our opponent does this turn anyway. Oh, so Mycospore. The bane of my existence. This card is so good. Just this little fungus Eldrazi. Doesn't really look like an Eldrazi to me, but... Okay, let's draw a card. A Force of Will. It's not even worth Force of Will in this guy. That's the annoying thing. It's just cast triggers. Just all up in my business. Oh. They might get a one-off Wasteland here. The way they targeted our basic makes me think they're getting the Wasteland, yeah. Oh dear, oh dear. Well, that is a very disgusting thing to have happened to us. I do think we're right thinking about it with the land we got before. Okay. Let's play this, I guess. Let's phase out their guy, not that it matters. We just want the mana to activate our Tamiyo clue when the time comes. Oh, this Cloud Post deck is so good. Playing Nexus is really quite the card. Crack him for 3, that's fine. If they got something big like the One Ring or a Calm, we can say no to that one. A post. Sure, the mana is certainly going up and up. I think we probably pitch the Euro rather than the Baleful Strix. Baleful Strix can block, buy us another turn. It flies, it draws us a card. Ulamog. Oh, I wonder which 2 permanents our opponent's going to target. Oh, is it our lands, is it? Is that what you'd like to target? Who would have thought? Right, now we don't have to get rid of the Euro or the Baleful Strix. We can just get rid of the Tamiyo here. This one is counterable. It's the like Emrakul that isn't counterable. They did get to take out 2 of our opponents. If we find a land, we might be able to brainstorm and flip the Tamiyo. What does that do, I hear you say? Very little. But it's something. Maybe our opponent just bricks. Maybe they just have lands. It's possible. They don't have fixing of their draws. They do have the One Ring in their deck somewhere. This Vexing Bauble is going to be a problem, isn't it? Well, we found a land, but it's not a very helpful one, is it? Yeah, the power of playing a Nexus is so good. Because not only does it just pump all your big mana things, whether that's your Urza's Tower or your Cloud Posts, but the fact that it lets you use all the extra mana you're generating to then turn it into a coloured mana. It's basically like having a Cloud Post, or like, it's like having a Glimmer Post that taps whatever colour you want, basically. It's bananas. Kozilek's Command. X equals 10. Okay, that's a little overkill for the poor Tamiyo, but you do get to scry X cards. The chance of them whiffing on 10 cards is very small. Okay, they put 4 on the top. I think we are definitely dead here. But maybe we get to see another little piece that our opponent has. Something unusual. This is another Kozilek's Command. Like, their hand must be pretty stacked at this point. Alright, I don't want to play this anymore. Let's go to the sideboard. Kind of wish we had a 4th Harbinger of the Tides in our deck. So, do want the Boseiju in the main, do want in the sideboard. I don't know about that one. We definitely want the Consign to Memory. That's an obvious one. Carpet Flowers. Like, if we get our Harbinger of the Seas, we probably don't need the Carpet in play to make any sort of mana for us anyway, because our opponent just won't be playing the game. So there is that. Do I want the Boseiju in the main, or do I want it as a wish target? I think I want it in the main. It goes alongside the Decay. It's just 3 answers to our opponent's Vexing Bauble. So we need to cut a couple of cards here. How do I feel about counter spells? I think they're very important. I think the Tamiyo is pretty good. Maybe are we trimming Ponders? Ponders finds us Harbinger of the Tides though. And that's kind of what this game is all about. Maybe it's the Baleful Strix. This card is not doing the most here actually. I think that's pretty sensible cut. Okay, I'll try this. Oh, deck, please. Please give me more than 1 land one time. I will keep this. We have a Brainstorm. I believe in Brainstorm. We have a Birds of Paradise, so it's kind of like having another land. I think we want the birds out rather than anything else here. And we want a Trop so we can cast a Brainstorm. We just want to Brainstorm, find our Harbinger of the Tides, ruin our opponent's day, and move on with life. Alright, Glimmer Post. Vexing Bauble. Well, our opponent knows that's very good against us. One of those Baleful Strixes, eh? I would like to cast a Brainstorm. I just got this feeling we're not going to find a land. Oh, we did find a land. Okay. We don't need 2 Alluren, so one of those can go away. We certainly don't need another Tamiyo, so that can go away. We can play this. We can crack this now. Get an Underground Sea. We're just charging up our Uro rather than just trying to nick away with the Baleful Strix. Let's cast a Ponder. Harbinger of the Seas. You beauty. Big fan of having you. If our opponent's got Thought-Knot Seers, they might have some sort of like Elvish Spirit Guide and be able to play it next turn, so I don't want that to happen. So that means we're putting Strix on the bottom, floating the Harbinger of the Seas on top, no pun intended, and Hedge Maze on top, and we'll draw that. And then we'll cast a Tamiyo. Alright. Tap out for something middling, or just don't have any Kozilek's Command mana. That's the sort of thing I want. Just, you know, just play a tapped Cloud Post. A Caracas. You can bounce my Tamiyo if you want. Sure, you can bounce it. So we've got a Baleful Strix on top that we can cast, but is it good enough? I don't think it's where I want to be. I think I'm just going to mill that one off. And then see if our opponent's holding up a Dismember right now. Obviously they can cast a Dismember whenever. But this card does some amount of work. Force of Will, not the most useful one. So green, blue, and whatever. We'll cast this Uro. Because this way, if we find a green source, then we just get to go here. Sure, I'll put this into play. Oh, that's even better. Now we get to cast this guy as well. Do I want to attack into 2 open colourless mana? Yes. I don't know what I'm supposed to be scared of. There comes a point where our opponent might cycle this Bauble because they're desperate to find something that does a thing. And then it turns on our counter spells, and it also turns on the whole combo that our deck is trying to achieve. So it's a nice island you have there, opponent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I think I would rather... Right, we're going to attack with these 2 creatures. And then I'm going to play the Tamiyo off of the Birds of Paradise. In case they try and remove our creature, we at least have some options there. So we can hardcast Flare of Denial and Force of Will now. So I feel in a very solid position. We just need to eventually beat our opponent down. The One Ring. Say no to this one. Bash away. Opponents still don't have much joy over there. We can flip the Tamiyo next turn if we want. So I think that's better than cracking the clue right now. Another Harbinger of the Seas though. That's a hard one to pass up, isn't it? Oh, I forgot to tap the Tamiyo. Too busy thinking about this Harbinger of the Seas. Apologies. That was very sloppy. 1, 2, 3. Let's play this. Just have some backup Harbinger action. Disruptor Flute. What would you like to do with your Disruptor Flute, I wonder? Force of Will. Well, you'll never guess what's in our hand. This ain't Force of Will. I was just not attacking the time. It was just me sort of being quick and sloppy because I want to get the game over and done with. And we're obviously quite far ahead with what we've got going on. Our opponent will be able to hard cast some scary things at some point. But we have the next one covered. What is this? Something large. We're paying for 5 mana. 6 mana. No. Alright, our opponent's had enough. Excellent. So, do I like how I've sideboarded here? Yes. Am I going to change anything? No. Alright, back in we go. Alright, we have the best card in the matchup. And we've got some cantrips to find some other cards. Sign me up. Once upon a time. Let's see what they're working with. Sowing Microspawn. Not my favourite card to see, if I'm being perfectly honest. Exploration. Oh, no. They got their basic forest, which certainly helps as well. And a Glimmer Post. Yeah. Some stuff they're working with over there. Alright. Get the island. Do the ponder. Okay. I like these cards. I want some of them, but not all of them. So next turn we can shuffle away the one we don't want, play the Birds of Paradise, hold up the Consign to Memory. Or we can just hold up the Consign and try and counter the Sowing Microspawn ability. Okay, Vexing Bauble. Caracas. Okay, we've got Consign to Memory. We don't want to draw the card underneath it. Let's play this. We don't have to crack it now, I guess, do we? Sometimes there's like weird timing windows where you want to crack stuff on your turn so you can't get like tripped up by things. That's normally playing around days where they can daze a spell with your thing on the stack. Alright, we may as well get a Surveil land here. Although, do you want to just get a black land? Do I want to get a black land? I don't think so. I think we just get a Surveil land here. Get an extra little bit of bonus here. Which one do we want? Is it Undercity Sewers? Because we already have a green in hand, yeah. Misty Rainforest, that can go into the graveyard. A Flare of Denial. So what can our opponent cast with this mana available to them? They can't Kozilek's Command. They can Sowing Microspawn next turn. Would I like to hold up the Consign to Oblivion for a turn? I think I'm kind of about that. Because we can snag the creature and the card, then our opponent be tapped out and we can play the Harbinger into an empty board with no mana up on our opponent's side. They only played 1 land last turn, so they can only play 1 land this turn, unless they're sandbagging like a wasteland for some reason. Disruptor Flute. Am I casting this with Replicate is the question. Do I need to cast it with Replicate? What can a Caracas do to us? That's Iron Cycle here. Get the Hedge Maze. I want the Surveil before I... Do I want to Brainstorm first? I Brainstorm first, then Hedge Maze, then Harbinger. Okay, I like a lot of these cards. Let's put the Strixes on top for now. Actually, no, we're going to mill one of these off, aren't we? So I think we want to keep the Strixes, and I'm going to mill away the Brainstorm here. So we want to turn our counter magic back on after next turn. I guess we don't have to mill this away if we don't want to. They were going to name Harbinger of the Seas with their Disruptor Flute, which is why we hit it earlier. Is this a Dismember? It is. Okay. We could have played that slower and maybe had the Flare of Denial to keep us in check, but we didn't find the land off of the top, so we were going to have to wait a while to do that. Now they're just going to play the same Microspawn and probably just body us. Vexing Bauble is a horrible card for us to play against. Like our emergency say no button doesn't work, and our actual combo doesn't work. Alright, they're not kicking this. That fills me with a little bit of joy. Alright, so they're just getting a Cloud Post. Just a lovely Cloud Post. So now what we do, we know that the top card of our library is another bird. We can cast a bird. We can Brainstorm here. And then Abrupt Decay and Flare of Denial if we need to. And Force of Will. Alright. We've got some actions we can take. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. Oh, 6, 7. They can activate either again. Not the best of times for us right now. Yeah, I think we've kind of not been able to assemble our combo really. Oh, this Cloud Post deck's so good. Just this big inevitable deck that goes over the top, whilst also sometimes you just don't ever have any lands against it because they just take them all out. It's very scary. If they play something we want to counter, we can do that. I would like to Kozilek's Command. Alright, I'm going to hit this Bauble. Are we getting rid of the other Strix or the Brainstorm? We put a Ponder on top. I think it's the Strix, because we need to dig to something better than where we are now. And digging for other stuff is better. Okay. Sacrifices Baleful Strix. So that's our opponent off the top, but they have an Eye of Ugin. So, yeah, ain't that something? If we can find our way into making the Harbinger this turn, we'll be alright. Okay, so I think we Brainstorm first. We know there's a trop there. Okay, I don't want these things in particular. Generous Ent is not where you want to be. Do I want the Misty Rainforest? It doesn't really impact our life total here. And then we'll play the Misty Rainforest. We'll shuffle away and then we'll do the Pondering. So we need blue, blue, green, green. We have that. Do we just want a Bayou to round out what we're doing? Do we want a forest so we can cast the Alluren if we lose our Birds of Paradise? I think we just want a trop here. Let's cast the Ponder. 1, 2, 3, 4. We could Lorien Revealed, but then we still have to draw through this blank. So this is an end orange shuffle from me. A Tamiyo. Well, you're a spell we can cast, so that's more than some of the cards in our deck right now. Like the lands. They are not spells we can cast. Alright. Just a little Sowing Mica Spawn. So you keep playing spells. That's quite a good spell, isn't it? I think that's probably the only spell probably worth more than just Eye of Ugining here. Yep, Tammy gets bounced. Like I said, it's a spell that we can technically cast. Maybe we'll keep their Caracas tapped down. And it's something. Like, if our Tamiyo is Rishadan Port, I can live with that. And if we find a fetch land or something, a Brainstorm or something, we can then just flip it and at least have something going. Oh, jeez. I'm not going to count how much mana our opponent has, but I'm pretty sure they can just Emerald Call us next turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like 14-ish mana. So they can just... That's not including the reduction from the Eye of Ugin, though. So they can just shoot for an Emerald Call on our end step and then play it. So how do we win the game? Harbinger of the Tides. Harbinger of the Seas. I really need to stop calling it Harbinger of the Tides. Have they got Big Emma? They can also like loop infinite turns with the Big Emma as well if they need to with the Caracas. Okay, just an Ulamog. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they can't cast it this turn. So we get one more turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so if they've got a land in hand, they can just hard cast the Ulamog through a Harbinger of the Seas. Work out for us either, does it? Consigned to memory. Well, that does kind of work, doesn't it? I suppose we'll keep their Caracas tapped down. God, we're just not going to beat this One Ring, though. Yep, they've drawn 6 cards off of it now. Pretty good rate for 4 mana. Suva, copy a Cloud Post. Sure, yeah, just keep coming. Just keep all the mana coming. They might be able to get Big Emma and kill us with it. 6, 12... 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Alright, this Consigned to Memory is going to be aces. We're just showing them we mean business here. So, our little 1 mana spell answers their Ulamog. A clean answer as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they can now activate Eye of Ugin as well. Disruptor Flute. Are you going to name Tamiyo? I doubt it. What do they name here? Harbinger of the Seas, probably. Yeah, we can still cast that. It just makes it 3 more expensive. 1, 2, 3. Another Disruptor Flute. Another Harbinger of the Seas one, I imagine. That's fine. I wonder if they do have a Big Emma in their deck or not. If they don't have Big Emma, then maybe this game has a little bit more life in it. But they can just start chaining Sowing Mica Spawns. And we are getting low on the old life points, so we're going to have to chump block soon. Oh, a snow-covered island, you say? Well, that's exciting for us, isn't it? We probably have to play it out just because they might be blowing up our lands. We want to have many lands in play. We will continue to cast Rishadan Port until morale improves. Like I said, it was better than some of the cards in our decks. It was a spell and we can cast it, but only lands. Alright, our opponent's drawn 4 cards from the One Ring this turn, bringing their grand total up to 10 cards for 4 mana. They played another Cloud Post, a Vexing Bauble, so we can't backdoor combo our opponent now. Goodbye, Tamiyo. Are you a good Richard Amport? Alright. I don't know how much mana they've got. This is probably just a micro spawn. Oh, they do have Big Emma. So this taps for like loads now. We ain't winning. Alright. We got owned pretty hard there at the end. We do have some useful cards for that matchup. I don't think we could afford to play slow enough into them because we didn't have the land to try and have the Harbinger Seas backed up by a Flare of Denial. So let's have a quick look at our matchups. 3 games all the way down. Yep, it's been a long one. I'm exhausted. And I have to get up relatively early tomorrow. Anyway, so we had game into everything. And, you know, we beat Scam, we lost to Scam. We beat Eldrazi, we lost to Eldrazi. We lost the Cloud Post matchup. Alright, so let's talk about the list. You know what I'm going to say. This deck needs another land. The amount of 1-landers we had to keep. Now, yeah, we could mulligan them, but mulliganing in the Scam meta is a recipe for failure. You need to have a deck that can keep 7s reliably. Because let's say you mull to 5, and then you lose your 2 best cards on turn 1. You are not playing Magic the Gathering in that game. Even if you mull to 6 and you lose your 2 best cards, you still might not be playing Magic the Gathering in that game. Like, what is the win percentage of decks when they go down to 4 cards? Not great. So, I think I want an additional land in this deck. I think just 1 would be a start, and then you can see how that feels. It may be that the carpet is supposed to be a land here, and when the carpet's good, it's great. But when the carpet isn't good, like you're playing against a wasteland deck, and you've got a carpet of flowers in your hand, what are you supposed to do, right? So that is definitely an issue. But on the whole, I would say I enjoy this deck quite a lot. There is a lot of play to it, and you have a lot of like little choices about how you're going to sequence things and what you're playing towards. Are you playing towards your sort of Uro control-y style finish? Are you playing towards your combo? How do you want to use your Living Wishes? That sort of jam. I think I would need to play this quite a few times to really get the hang of it. And it does feel like you're having to work quite hard for what it does. And there's a few things that did puzzle me slightly with the list. So we have 3 Harbinger of the Seas in the main deck. And 0 in the sideboard. And Harbinger of the Seas feels like a kind of key component to what some of the things we're doing, right? We're running a main deck Carpet of Flowers, which we're hoping to proc off our Harbinger. Yes, it's going to be good into a lot of the meta. A lot of the time, it's kind of like a Pyroblast in that respect. But I feel the fact that we're running Living Wish, and I played a weird Nick Fit list a while back with loads of cool stuff in it. And one thing I deduced was the curve of turn 2 Living Wish, turn 3 Harbinger of the Seas is a real curve that just wins you the game against some decks. So I would like to see a Harbinger of the Tides. Sorry, Harbinger of the Seas. One of these days, I'll remember it properly. Harbinger of the Seas in the sideboard, just so you can say, okay, I just get to win here. And I think that is quite an important thing that we could do to improve what we're doing. Because that would effectively give us, 6 copies of Harbinger of the Seas in the matchups where it's like the card that we definitely need. And I think that's only costing us 1 additional slot to do so. Like, you could move a Harbinger of the Seas to the sideboard from the main and only have run 2 if you wanted to free up another spot for, like, land or another Living Wish or whatever. And then that would give you a little bit more wiggle room as well. But what I will say, my main issue with this deck was the mana base and the fact that we're playing basics because we're trying to do Harbinger of the Seas. But we're also trying to cast Uro, and we're trying to cast Baleful Strix, and we're trying to cast Abrupt Decay. And these are relatively prescriptive mana costs. And sometimes that is going to jam you up. Now, the more you play this deck, the more you'll get to know what you should be fetching when, and you're going to have a little bit of a better eye in about how you're going to approach that. But it does feel like you're creating a percentage of games that you're going to struggle in because of that sort of thing. And I'm not big into losing to my own deck. It really felt like a thing that could happen a little bit here. Also about the sideboard, I think the Toxic Deluge is fine. I think all these options here are fine. It's clearly like some odd numbers here. Like, oh yeah, 2 of this, 2 of this, 2 of this. So clearly the time has been put in by the sort of Alluren savant that played this deck, that played and built this deck. I'm going to question those numbers, but I do feel that the mana is holding this deck back. I think if we had some better mana, we might have been able to put another win on the board, possibly 2 more even. Also, we don't have any Cavern Harpy anywhere, which is a combo you can do with the Uro. So you can play the Uro and then bounce it with the Cavern Harpy bounce the Cavern Harpy itself, and then rinse and repeat underneath an Alluren, which is like a nice angle to have. So maybe we could run one of those alongside our Baleful Strix, and then we could have, you know, bouncing Baleful Strix is a nice grindy plan. You know, it reminds me a bit of why would Sim be at Elvish Visionary in the off decks when they're sort of, oh yeah, we just need to string something together, let's just try and do this. So that's a thing that you could look at. But this deck is clearly trying to be like a Sultai, mid-rangey, control-y type affair. Maybe we need a touch more removal to help with the matchups like Eldrazi a little bit. I guess just more Harbinger of the Seas is also really good too. Vexing Bauble though, that is a bigger problem than I first thought. Like, yes, we can win with our fair stuff, and we did manage to do that. But we can't cheese a backdoor win with our Allurens. Are we supposed to board out Allurens in that matchup maybe? In the Eldrazi matchup, just board out the Allurens? Like, we did win off of the back of them. But what would we be boarding in if we took them out? I guess we could... I don't know, but we'd be keeping our Tamiyos in, but Tamiyo just feels really weak in a matchup like that. Like, the best thing it can do is like block a glaring Flesh Raker and prevent you a couple of damage. But ideally, you want to be getting the cards off of it. I suppose you can flip it and maybe get the minus on their creature's power and toughness. Sorry, on their power when they're attacking, and maybe that buys you another turn. But I just don't feel that Tamiyo is where I want to be on there. I do like Tamiyo in this deck as well, especially when you're producing a reasonable amount of mana, gives you something to do with it. Although, are we producing a reasonable amount of mana? Because we certainly had a lot of one-landers. Alright, I don't think I have much more to say about this. I'm not very experienced with Alluren at all. I've played it a few times, and every time I play it, I always sort of learn quite a lot. There's a lot to these decks, and the person who built and played this deck is obviously an absolute master of playing Alluren decks. But I will say, the amount of 7s that we looked at and went, okay, are we going for a 6 here? Are we keeping this kind of just about fine one-lander that is easily collapsible? It felt like we had to keep a lot of hands that were collapsible. Like that one against the Scam player, we said, okay, well, if this sequence happens, we cannot win the game, and that sequence happened. I feel that the way that this deck is built is leaning into that a little bit. Also, Generous Ent, it's in there so that we have ways of getting our basic forests when we've played a Harbinger of the Seas. Cycling a 5/7 into your graveyard in this format feels a bit scary, because you can just turn on stuff that might have otherwise been dead in your opponent's hand. Nevertheless, deck is cool. I always love Alluren. It's quite a weird, funky, cool deck. And this one is kind of leaning a lot more into the control, so it's a little bit easier for other people to pick up than trying to know all the ins and outs of the Alluren bounces and all that sort of jazz. So it's not a bad starting place to go. And clearly, you know, if one of the best Alluren players going is playing this, there's something to it. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.